Okay, welcome back to a video. Unlike most of my videos, today's going to be more of like a rant type video. It's just some Squadrons gameplay going in the background. Because I just decided, why not rant about Star Wars? You know, it's yeah, it's been on my mind because I've been playing Squadrons, so it's been on my mind a lot, and I decided to rant about different things like sequels, maybe a next trilogy of Star Wars, Mandalorian, and all that. So I just decided that maybe I should rant, a little bit about it, because why not? It makes content for me, and just actually lets me rant about things to someone other than myself, even though I still am ranting to myself. Anyways. Anyways, let's just get into it. The first thing I want to rant about is the sequels and why I don't like them. First thing I'm gonna bring up is that I didn't hate the Force Awakens. I didn't hate it. It wasn't necessarily a good film, and it was definitely mainly just a big repeat of A New Hope. Essentially, but it was all right. It didn't I wouldn't say it didn't ruin anything yet. That was part of the sequels that nothing had been ruined yet. And then you get The Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker, which, oh man, no, just not good. In my opinion, I'm gonna get, you'll hate me for that if you liked them, but I don't care. My biggest thing is Rey. Oh gosh, I get the point of Disney wanting mainly Kathleen Kennedy. That's the bitch's name. Anyways, I get her for wanting like a strong female character as like the lead and all. I understand that, but they made Rey too powerful. She was the definition of a Mary Sue. I don't care what you said. You don't care what you say. She is a Mary Sue. She is way too powerful. She is way, way, way too powerful. Yeah. I mean, this is a girl that has never heard of the Force, and then in a couple days, just randomly is like, yeah, I'm the best Force user in the galaxy now. That's what's going down. It's just like the fact that an untrained Rey that learned about the Force maybe 2 days before she fought Kylo Ren for the first time, then goes and beats him. It's man, it's just Kylo Ren was trained by Luke as a Jedi, and then trained by Snoke, which was retconned to be Palpatine, which is dumb in itself. But the fact that he was trained by Snoke in the dark side, and before that by Luke, and he's been training for what I assume is his entire life. I just don't understand how she could beat him in any way at all. Just by believing in the Force all of a sudden, and she knows how to fight with a lightsaber when before she fought with a bow staff, which two completely different weapons. One is a sword, one is a bow staff. So two completely different ways of fighting. That's another point, just so many things. The fact that The Force Awakens just brought Starkiller Base in as a thing, to have another Death Star, kinda, yeah, not really well done. Yes, there was already 2 stories with 2 Death Stars, but they did it in a way to where the second Death Star kinda made sense. It wasn't, like super bad in that way, but yes, it was kinda iffy on that, but I still think that the Starkiller base is kind of dumb. Is they promised Finn as to be like a cool character, like almost the main character, and that's what I hoped would happen with Finn. He was all right in Force Awakens, but in the Last Jedi, Ryan Johnson just fucked him over bad, like completely screwed Finn's character, and ruined Finn's character, and then he didn't get better in Rise of Skywalker. Yeah. Anyways, back to Rey and why I don't like her being overpowered and all that. I mean, I don't know. Does she lose? Does she truly lose anything at all? I don't think she truly loses a single battle, a single fight. I don't think she loses anything she doesn't fail anything in the first two movies, and maybe does one thing wrong in The Rise of Skywalker, but shows a tiny bit of training. But here's the thing, if you show her training after showing her be way too overpowered already, it doesn't matter. The damage is done. She's already too OP, and she hasn't trained until like the last movie, and that wasn't really training for how powerful she is. Let's be honest. They kind of powered her down a tiny bit, and then repowered her back up in the last movie. It was very inconsistent, I think. Very inconsistent. Her whole character is essentially like, let's make this female character that's super powerful so that all women can look up to her, but they did it wrong. It's a terrible character. It really is. And they said Rey was the first strong female character in Star Wars, and yet they forgot about just about any female character in Star Wars. I mean, seriously. Just about any female character that is in Star Wars is a strong female character. Like, in the original trilogy, you have Leia, and you have Leia in that, and then in the prequels you have Padme. In the Clone Wars series you had Ahsoka. In Rebels series you have Hera, Sabine, and Ahsoka again. And then in The Mandalorian you have Cara Dune. Is that her name? I can't remember her name completely. I think it's Cara Dune. Anyway, so you have that. Oh, you have all that stuff, and then they say Rey is the first. It pisses me off. And then Rose, I feel like, could have been a good character. Could have been. But Ryan Johnson is bad at writing films for Star Wars, apparently. He did good with Knives Out. He just doesn't know how to write a Star Wars movie, apparently. So, yeah, that's that. I mean, like, I don't know. They did so many things wrong, and then Rise of Skywalker was just pure fan service. Listen, I get that fans wanted Chewie to have a medal, but I didn't really see it as like a thing that needed to happen, you know? This fan service just really pisses me off in movies. When it's like overly done, which Rise of Skywalker could have been Star Wars fan service. It's really what it could have been called. And now that I'm thinking of the sequels, it's making me think of Solo and Rogue One. In Solo, it was just a terrible movie. It took everything about Han Solo and threw it in the garbage. I mean, I don't know. Han Solo's character arc was perfect in the original trilogy, and then they did Solo and made it not perfect. Yeah, I did not like it. I didn't solo the Kessel Run made in 12 parsecs. I I always imagine that, and there's kind of almost proof in the original trilogy that Han said that to Obi-Wan and Luke purely as just a way to sell himself up. It was a lie to make his ship seem better, to make his piece of crap ship seem better than it actually was. And yes, the Falcon is a fast ship. Yeah, it is. But I always assumed that he said that as just a way of like trying to get more money out of him or something, saying it's such an amazing ship that you need to pay more money for it. And Obi-Wan even gives him like a puzzled look in the shot of like, are you really trying to pull that over on me? And then he's just decides that it'd be for the greater good just to go ahead and go with this dude, you know. Yeah, that's what I think. And then they show it in Solo and L3. Gosh, dude. Oh man. Uh, Lando's what was it? Pansexual. Um. Yeah. No. No. It's so dumb. It's so dumb. Goodness gracious. And then the Millennium Falcon and all that, which, um, forces a contradiction into the Revenge of the Sith, because the Revenge of the Sith is seen as how the Falcon is seen in A New Hope and in the original trilogy. In Revenge of the Sith, you can see a shot of it flying in, and that is, it looks, it's the exact same model as the original trilogy. And yet we're supposed to see it as a fancy new ship. So apparently it's somewhere in Revenge of the Sith, and then Lando gets it and completely restores it, and then it goes back to being shit again in the original trilogy. It just doesn't make sense to me. The fact that Han Solo was always a good guy, also doesn't make sense, because the whole Han Solo's whole arc in Episode 4 is that he almost reluctantly keeps coming back. Even in like the rest of the trilogy, he is almost reluctantly coming back, you know? In Episode 4, he doesn't want to be involved at all until the very end. He's made a connection with Luke, a little connection that is. He's made a connection and decides to go back and help them to destroy the Death Star. And then in Episode 5, he wants to leave again and just go back onto his own, trying to pay back Jabba and all that. And then he just gets pulled back into it by the attack on Hoth. And then all that happens, and he's floating in carbonite. And in Episode 6 is when you finally see him fully as a good character, as not as like an anti-hero. You finally see him as the general that he is in that movie. And even then, he probably wouldn't stay super long, if we're going to be honest. Which kind of goes into Force Awakens, where he does fall away and goes back to smuggling. That's Han's character. And they ruined that in Solo. They really ruined it in Solo. And yeah, it's just, I really did not like the way the sequels were. I think the sequels should have been something else. I think the sequels could have left the original characters a bit, like they not as much though. I think if the 3 original characters stayed together, that's another thing. The original 3 characters never were like all 3 of them were not together at once, which really pissed me off. But I think the sequel trilogy should have been the Yuzhong Vong War. I really believe it should have been the Yuzhong Vong War. And they could have had it, 30 years later and all that, and have it the Yuzong Vong War as a trilogy where you kill off the main characters in the Yuzong Vong War, and the next generation of heroes defeats the Yuzong Vong. Like the first two movies are the New Republic is getting absolutely smacked or something by the Yuzong Vong. And then you could have the original trilogy characters die off in those first two movies, and then in the third movie have the New Republic and the new generation of characters finally beat the Yuzong Vong. And that would be a way of not bringing back Palpatine, and have it to where there's not the whole who's the chosen one still being not reviving the chosen one, because the whole chosen one thing ended in episode 6, at least it should have. And then you could have had it to where you have a whole entire new trilogy that isn't a part of the quote-unquote Skywalker saga, where you could have the first 6 movies be the Skywalker part of the Star Wars universe. That's the saga of the Skywalkers. That's about the Skywalker family. Is those 6 movies. It's about the Skywalker family. And then you have this next trilogy that has the Yuzong Vong that could even, could continue the Skywalker lineage, and all that through like Jason Solo and Anakin Solo and all them, whatever. I don't remember all the names from Legends. Sorry, I don't remember them right off the top of my head. But you could have all that, continue it on, but not continue on. Oh God, I just smacked my mic on accident. But not continue on the chosen one part of the Skywalker lineage. The Skywalker lineage of the chosen one ended in episode 6. They defeated Palpatine and all that. And since it's not the Sith they're going against, it would make sense. The Sith are done. At least in this trilogy, there's no Sith. It's just them fighting the Yuzong Vong. The remnants of the Empire and them, come together and finally beat, the Yuzong Vong, and that would be the end of that trilogy. That's what I would really love to have been the sequel. And maybe even if they actually do end up redoing the sequel, maybe say that the original trilogy characters are already dead if they don't want to come back, which I'm pretty sure they don't, and then have that trilogy of fighting the Yuzong Vong, of having the Skywalker lineage still going on, or even just redesign some of the characters from the sequels and put them into this new sequel where it's the Yuzong Vong or whatever, And that brings me into my next point of what I think the next Star Wars movies should be, or movies. Maybe if they're planning on doing a new trilogy, I think they need to go instead of continuing forward in time, which I don't think they really should have ever done in the movies. I think they should have always gone back and done the old Republic era, and even like just the Republic era, like just get the height of the Jedi. A movie about the height of the Jedi. Jedi. Oh God, excuse me. Have it being about Jedi that we've never heard before, or maybe Jedi from Legends. Have a movie about the Jedi Mandalorian War. Have a movie about the Old Republic, the Jedi versus Sith Galactic War. The fall of the Sith Empire, the rise of the Old Republic, the fall of the Old Republic, the rise of the Republic, the prequel trilogy Republic. Have something involving, something like an entire Mando versus Jedi war, all that stuff. You could have all that. You know, you could have it. You could do all that type of stuff that's in the past that we never heard of. We could have stuff in the time of the Republic. Stories about Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon, maybe stories about Yoda and his species, even as movies or TV shows could be done like that. And that's what I think that they should do next. Instead of trying to move even more forward in time, go back in time. Do the old Republic. Do the Jedi versus Sith, Jedi versus Mandalorians, all that stuff. That is so much more interesting to, I think, almost all Star Wars fans than the sequels, than something else they could do with the sequels. I think the stories of old would be much better than trying to continue forward and going back and telling the stories of old that they have done, that they have written, almost all of it written anyways. Make it canon again, at least, maybe make it canon through a TV show that takes bits of legends and put it into canon as the Old Republic, or a movie of Jedi versus Mandalorians, Jedi versus Sith Empire, all that stuff. The Old Republic era. I really want them to explore that and make a movie about it. I would really love that. And I guess the last thing I'm going to talk about, or last two things I'm going to talk about, are why I think Dave Filoni should take over as the head of Lucasfilm, which I think that's obvious to most people. He's essentially George Lucas's right-hand man. I mean, seriously, he really is. He created the Clone Wars with George Lucas. He created Rebels, which is a great show. George Lucas, trusted him to finish off season 7 all on his own. George Lucas has said he's trusted Dave Filoni to do things. And just Dave Filoni's view of Star Wars is the perfect view of Star Wars. Everything about it. He and George Lucas together are they are Star Wars. George Lucas himself is Star Wars, but I think Dave Filoni is also Star Wars. Them two together is the perfect Star Wars story that can ever be made. They've made the perfect Star Wars stories. So them two and Jon Favreau, I think, should really, George Lucas, Dave Filoni, and Jon Favreau, I really think are the three people that should lead Star Wars from now on. Really. You have the 3 sequel trilogies that didn't do great, and Solo that didn't do good, Rogue One that did okay, all those that are under Kathleen Kennedy, all did bad, And then the one thing that Dave Filoni, George Lucas, and I just said his name. Anyways, the one thing that George Lucas got his hands back onto, which is The Mandalorian, that Dave Filoni are helping out with, is the best piece of Star Wars content we've had in years. It's absolutely amazing. And speaking of The Mandalorian, I want to just say some things about that. I love it. I have not been disappointed by a single Mandalorian episode. I have liked every episode of The Mandalorian. There are some episodes that I would say aren't super duper great, but I don't hate them. The Prisoner, it's not necessarily one of the greater ones. It's, I would say, probably the worst of all of them. That said, though, I enjoyed it. It was a good episode. I enjoyed that episode. The one thing I don't really like about it right now is I feel like it's kind of losing its charm of season 1 almost, where it's going into the bigger universe, I feel too much, where I love the fact that they brought Ahsoka in. I love it. There's a live action Ahsoka, and it's amazing. I think that was great. I liked Bo-Katan in an episode. I like these little cameos. And, those cameos are nice and all, and I think that's great, and it adds, but I don't want them to get too much into, Ahsoka's story. I hope Ahsoka I honestly hope her story doesn't continue in The Mandalorian. I hope it continues in maybe her own spin-off show, maybe in the Rebels spin-off that's been rumored and all that. I really hope that it doesn't continue in The Mandalorian. I hope Mandalorian ends up, continuing as just being the Mando and the child and the characters that they set up, instead of trying to go and rely on the bigger Star Wars characters. Well, not bigger, but like the movies characters that the sequel trilogy tried to rely on. Trying to rely on. The first one was trying to almost rely on the original trilogy, basing off nostalgia and all that, and then those essentially were thriving purely off of nostalgia, and not actual character development and story development. Whereas The Mandalorian season 1 was really good. It had character development, story development, all that. It was very good, and it barely mentioned anything outside of The Mandalorian. It mentions the New Republic like one episode, I think, and season 2 has been going a little bit further, mentioning New Republic a lot more, which makes sense because it's that era. But it also, Bo-Katan comes in and Ahsoka comes in. I think that Bo-Katan and Ahsoka might come back for another episode, but I really hope that their stories don't continue on too much in The Mandalorian. I hope The Mandalorian stays The Mandalorian and doesn't turn into essentially like the next step. I hope Bo-Katan continues a story of maybe taking back Mandalore in another show. Maybe. I don't know. Bo-Katan would make sense to go back and take back Mandalore in The Mandalorian. It could make sense. It would make sense. I mean, they're all going after the same guy. Ahsoka is going to go after Thrawn, which I believe Moff Gideon is working for. Bo-Katan is going after Moff Gideon, and then Moff Gideon is going after Mando and Grogu. So I think that their paths will cross again. I believe that. So I think that Bo-Katan and Ahsoka might come back for maybe later in season 2 or even season 3, depending on how they decide to do things. But I am hoping that they don't decide to get too much into the greater Star Wars universe. Anyways, that's my final little bit of rant. This has been a very, very long video, and I'm going to leave it this long, and I hope you liked it. If you did, like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell, all those things that I'm supposed to say to get you to follow me. Yeah. Anyways, I might try and do some more of this type of video, and maybe not, depending on how well this does. If it does better than any of my other videos, that'd be crazy. It'll be like 2 views. But anyways, thanks for watching. If you did, goodbye.